First things first, this video will be as much about my thoughts as it is about yours. I want to open up the comment section for an open discussion and forum with regards to people's ideas on how the alien universe can be saved. All opinions welcome and they are highly encouraged. It's a pretty apparent and unfortunate turn of events, but the Alien franchise is in a state of limbo. Despite any fans and opinions, the wider audience and critics have been panning the Alien movies since Alien 3 onwards. With the latest addition to the franchise in Alien Covenant, the critical panning hasn't stopped there. Now, with the box office numbers in and the reviews and audience reaction, the future for the Alien franchise is in a rocky place. Fox currently, as yet, has not released any statements with regards to any future movies, and I know a lot of people will immediately jump in and say that Ridley Scott has announced the sequel. Sure, he spoke about it, but that was before Alien Covenant was released, and even then he didn't have his dates and timings right, as he is currently working on other projects, so a new Alien film out in the fall of 2018 just isn't going to happen. It physically can't. But how can we save this franchise that so many love so much and hold near and dear to our hearts? To answer this, you have to consider the wider picture at play and what led to its demise in the first place. Now, obviously these are just my opinions and my thoughts, which is precisely why I encourage you guys to let me know yours in the comments below. The first and most transparent reason, in my view, is the complete disregard to what the fans want. The reason this franchise has survived so long is because of the fans buying and exploring the expanded universe. In comics, novels, and games, this fanbase, though toxic to one another, have kept the Alien franchise alive and supported it throughout the years. Unfortunately, when considering what type of narrative to move forward with, story, new mythos elements, and overall tone, they were not considered. This is very clearly apparent when we saw Prometheus. They changed the long-standing mysterious space jockey from a giant elephantine biomech alien creature into a giant albino humanoid that created humans. Now, this change wasn't massively hated, though it did signify the beginning of the lack of consideration for fans. This then progressed when the alien turned out to be not remotely alien and was in fact the works of a mechanical, maniacal android David. In one fell swoop, you have destroyed years and years of expanded universe lore, which the fans chose to enjoy, support, and some loved. This lack of regard for the fans was a true stab in the face and only resulted in disengagement. Of course, pandering to fans is not the way forward, however, they are the only reason the Alien franchise was still alive at that point and deserved some more respect, in my opinion. All of the above unfortunately boils down to who you had in charge at the time. Ridley Scott. Now, say what you will about Scott and his filmmaking and acclaim, he does make a beautiful looking movie, but unfortunately doesn't choose or nurture scripts very well. This can be seen by taking a brief look through his cinematic entries across his lifetime, and there have been countless flops. Those pointing to the standout ones can be explained away by the fact those scripts were actually already in place by the time he was brought on to direct. Take The Martian, for instance, an extremely close, near identical adaptation from a book that is highly regarded. Did Ridley Scott add his incredibly beautiful cinematography to it? Yes, but he had no hand in the script. This is also a person that does not care what fans think, unfortunately, which is laughable when you look at the widespread fans that defend him. You only need to look at interviews and his quotes to see this. The fact he openly stated the alien is cooked, it's done, no one wants it anymore, is just proof of this fan to director disconnect. It also begs the question, why did he suddenly include the creature anyway? A lot of what goes on behind closed doors is up for debate, and I know a lot of people will immediately point and say that Fox forced him to include these things that we hated or disliked. I personally believe this to simply not be true. Ridley Scott is old school. So old school, in fact, he even brought back the voiceover guy for the trailer of Alien Covenant, an entirely redundant and bad choice in this modern day. He also chose to claim this was a masterpiece. On every marketing material, Ridley Scott was the front runner for this campaign as his masterpiece, his work of art, his incredible film. Are there redeemable elements to the film on a whole? Most definitely. I even hold my hands up and I say I had a good time with the film and enjoyed it. However, it is no masterpiece. It cannot be inserted into the overall Alien universe without considerable changes and issues taking place. That in itself renders it no masterpiece. The reason you have to point at Ridley Scott as one of the issues with the franchise at the moment is because he included a lot of brand new elements and then did a double turn removing them. One way to save the Alien franchise is actually pay off on the setup. The engineers, for instance. Why were they so vulnerable to only be killed off in Covenant by an android? Why have we not seen more of them? Why weren't they even mentioned properly? We spent the entirety of Prometheus finding them, so where is the payoff? A lot of people will then turn around and state that you need to wait until the third installment or read outside materials to better understand and get this payoff. It's my personal opinion that if you have to do further reading of a film to better understand it, then the film simply isn't crafted well. As there are remarkably well-made films that are both expansive and grand in nature, yet self-contained and have all of their story on the screen for you to enjoy. If they can, then surely Ridley Scott, the masterclass director that he is, can do the same. The effects were something that received massive critical views, with somewhat dodgy and wonky CG over motion capture, and bizarre and blatant green screen. This is something that makes Covenant resemble more of a B-movie than a high-end blockbuster it was intended to be. Why this was done is anybody's guess. They didn't have nearly as much of the budget as Prometheus did, but when there are films with equal to a fraction of the budget Covenant had, you are well within your right to question why the alien running around looks like it's coming from a bad video game render. Fox and Ridley Scott counted their chickens before they came home to roost, sadly. They began pushing this film hard, making wildly outlandish claims as to its quality, which really is the wrong way to go. Definitely push the movie. Alien movies deserve marketing, but don't make claims of visionary directors, incredible studios, and great stories when inevitably the overall and wider review is bad. It just makes everyone appear inexperienced and hilariously egotistical. Personally, to really save the franchise, they need to either remove Ridley Scott or remove the yes men around him and rein him in a bit. This will improve the script choice and structure chosen, which will then ensure we get payoff for any other movies which are otherwise currently unannounced and not greenlit. Having either someone new or co-checking what's going on will also help assist in silly choices being stopped, like James Franco being hired for presumably a day of filming and at a high price tag, no doubt. That character could have been any actor, and having Franco just shows a poor budgeting structure. Listening to the fans, or at least do market research from a cross-section and frequent the forums that these people air their opinions on. Doing this will ensure you get a wider opinion from those that have kept the franchise alive for as long as they have. Do they like David? Do they like the engineers? What is it they want to see? What was it they created in their own fanfiction? When there are fan theories out there that are arguably better than the stories we are receiving, you know there is something going wrong. Personally, what I would want to see in a movie moving forwards is the final installment in whatever Ridley Scott has planned, but pushed in a way that will actually fit into the wider narrative of the universe and the established first movie. You can't leave the story where it is, but you also can't allow free reign to continue. It's all well and good saying he deserves to finish his vision, but movies are a business and it isn't his money. The money is put up by Fox and investors, and sadly they aren't happy with business as yet, understandably so. If Ridley at least has his vision cross-checked and penned in a way that fans could at least respond positively to, then we will get the trilogy he intended and hopefully a jump-off point for someone else to take over next. They need to pay off on the engineer threat they developed in Prometheus. To not do this is a slap in everyone's face who spent the 2 hours watching Prometheus and expecting to see them again in the sequel. Setup is great, only when it's paid off. Also, get your PR right. You cannot allow a director free rein on interviews when the fan base of the movie they are directing dissects absolutely everything. Ridley Scott is widely known to just tout things at interviews, and what he says is being taken as gospel, even though he changes his mind in seconds. This isn't something that is exclusive to Ridley Scott, may I add, but it does seem to be an issue with Fox in general. We are seeing the same problem with the cast and director of the upcoming Predator movie from Shane Black. Hearing it isn't a sequel, it is, it's in the universe, but it isn't, etc. Have a PR company screen everything these people say, because they clearly, unfortunately, do not have clear direction on this, and it shows. All of this may seem like a rant, but it genuinely isn't. I enjoyed Covenant for what it is, but it has problems, and this comes from a passionate place, because as an Alien fan, I do not want the franchise to be put on ice simply because they didn't do really simple and, to me, obvious things. But what do you guys think? Do Do you think it's mainly a story issue? And if so, how do you get around the fact the director is the one that chooses and essentially screens the stories these days? Let me know how you think they can save this franchise at its core level, not just narratively, below in the comments section. And if you did enjoy this video, then please consider leaving it a like and subscribing to the channel for more in the future. I've been Mr. H, and until next time, I'll catch you in the comments section.